Hi, everybody. Welcome to this is episode 29 of Music Milestones YYZ.
999, Scotty.
Yeah, episode 29. Look at that. So we've actually got two out this week, so we just want to make sure that you're aware of that. There's also an episode 28, which is an interview with Lee Carter from CFNY. Most people would know him from CFNY, which is, we had a lot of fun. We've already recorded that, but it's available. So make sure you check it out if you're a CFNY fan. And remember, Lee Carter, live from London. A lot of great stories.
I mean, these are things that weren't in the documentary, and he had so many great stories and particularly working with a lot of bands and how he got music to us and how he ended up becoming a very well-renowned international journalist and what he's been doing since CFNY, which is quite interesting. And he's had a pretty good reach on the things that he's been doing.
Yeah, it's really good. So recommended. Check it out. The Lee Carter interview. That'll be episode 28. And so a number of things.
Sure. I was going to say too, Scott, that we've got two playlists this week too. So
oh yeah,
I've got a Lee Carter playlist and we've got an episode 29 playlist. So do check those ones out too if you can. And
yeah, just want to mention again with the playlist. It's great that Ivory you put that together, and thanks Sadeep who helps with it as well too. Because of the copyrights, we cannot get into playing music on the show. We do try sometimes, but we've been told that's a no-no, and so we have to be very careful. We get big fines. So this is why we have the playlist, and you know all of the songs we talk about, and even some extras they're thrown in too that they're related to what we're talking about are on these playlists. So it's definitely a great companion for the podcast.
Yes.
Okay. All right, let's first of all, speaking of Lee Carter, because he's in the extras for those that have purchased or want to purchase the DVD or the Blu-ray. He's in the extras. So there's a whole bunch of extras you get with the and it's the extended version of the documentary on the Blu-ray and DVD, and they are back in stock. Ivor, you tell us all about that.
Well, I delivered them myself. I mean, I went down to SVS, which is the place that houses them, and said I need to get these to you guys. And we did an order too, a reorder on them from our friends at Highball, and so we know how important it is for people to get these things. And you know, Scott, you and I are kind of going through this customer service rookie situation here when people, you know, reach out and say, I don't think that sticker that's $3 is really worth a lot, is a good deal, right? And so we're dealing with we do our best and try and appease everybody, but you know, things are brought to our attention that we didn't know about, and we try to help out as best we can, and we're getting there. We're getting a little bit better at that. Scott and I were the rookie store keepers. Anyway.
So just to be clear, on the stickers, there's two available, correct? There's one that's a kind of bumper sticker size.
There's the original bumper sticker one, which is a 10 inches by 4, I think. And then somebody had said, well, that small one's it's about 2 inches. And it's like, well, it's actually 3.5, but anyway, it is what it is. But somebody reached out to me and said, well, I was going to buy it, and then they told me it was going to be $14 to ship. And so I sent a note to the company and said, why is this $14 to ship? And they said, well, it's a Canada Post algorithm, and it depends geographically where the guy is. I said, well, you're in North York and this guy's in Scarborough. So you could have put it in Uber and it would have been cheaper to get there, right? So anyway, I mailed it myself, and he got it the next day. And I took a couple of empties back. It was $1.65 to send. So, you know, we aim to please.
Customer service. Ivor Hamilton.
Scott and I aim to please here at Music
Fantastic.
YYZ. So
fantastic. Yeah. Anyway, so the merch, most of the items are back in stock, right?
Yeah, we're just we've got everything. I just waiting for some further stock on those mediums that everybody did initially when we did these classic 80s logo ones in red and black. Those weren't addressed, so we managed to get a couple of like minimal stock, and then you know it's become very apparent that we really needed more in that. So I think there's a couple in the store right now, but I'm on these guys, you know, talking with them regularly to get that all updated. But we're in pretty good shape now, and because of your emails and reaching out to us on social media. Scott and I are just a little more active in looking at it to see what's there. And we're going to be having this CFNY dock store for quite some time, and at least into 2028. So we'll be adding some other things at a later point, and we'll keep everybody posted.
Yeah, great. The other thing about this, we're just talking about the documentary on DVD and Blu-ray, but there's nothing beats the theater experience, and there's only 2 more opportunities to see it in a theater with like-minded friends, just to see people that have been CFNY fans from all these years. We're going to be in Buffalo on the 29th. Then we're doing the final one in Brampton on June 6th. We have an addition. I think you said that
Yes.
Humble is going to come out to
Humble
Brampton,
Howard.
which is great with Freddie. He'll be there.
I talked to Fred the other day. He goes, "Did you invite Humble?" And I said, "Well, I will. I absolutely will." And so Howard got back to me and he goes, "I'd love to attend on the 6th." So I'm thrilled that Howard's going to join us on that night. And of course, for those of you that are really close to people at CFNY, Jai from Calypso Gardens is going to be there too as well. So I'm looking forward to that. He called, Fred said to me, he goes, "Yeah, you always called me Mr. Patterson. Mr. Patterson, how are you?" So we're thrilled about that. And of course, the Buffalo one, that is just such great news that we will be in the Buffalo market, and that's the first U.S. screening. So that's a big deal for them. We just got asked to be part of another podcast down there, and we'll probably be doing some things. I'm yet to confirm them, but some things on the bridge that day since they're a presenting radio station. So we're going to go in and try and hype it up to the folks out in Buffalo. But just really excited to be there, and so many fans, and of course, Darren Pfeiffer going to be there along with Nicholas Pickles, you, me, and Liz, and I think Alan's going to send in a video, some video stuff in his Buffalo memories. We're tweaking the slideshow. And I'm also tweaking the video show too. I want to put a few American things in there.
Yeah.
I don't believe Sarah McLachlan's from Buffalo, so I don't need to worry about that one, Scott. But we're going to put in a couple of other things that are relevant to the Buffalo market. On the when we get up to Brampton, we also have come up with a sort of commemorative tour poster that everybody's going to get as they depart the venue that night. But the real thing, of course, the end of this is your opportunity to meet with us. We stay till the bitter end. No stone unturned. We talk to absolutely everybody. We'll sign anything you want, take pictures, answer any silly questions you might have, or any questions you have, not only in the Q&A, but afterwards as well. And that's always fun for us.
Yeah, definitely. Look forward to that. Okay, concerts. We have a few new concerts to mention.
I think the one that I've only really got one that comes to mind that's really for the CFNY audience this week, and that is the Gene. You Smiths fans, the Smiths, after they broke up into the 90s, Gene were kind of like the second coming of the Smiths in a lot of instances or a lot of ways, but certainly had their own originality. And they only ever played here, I think, maybe twice. So they are returning to Toronto. It's on November the 17th at the Danforth Music Hall. Look forward to that show. It's going to be really, really good.
Okay, also a couple of new releases musically, and I just this morning, as we're taping this, you had sent me the video for the new Stones.
Yes,
I hadn't heard the audio yet, so this is me first time, and of course
okay.
I just want to hear what it sounded like, and I'm like, wow, this is new Stones. And the second I opened it up, the video, and I hit play, and just that riff, the classic Keith Richards, old classic Stones sound is like, wow, this sounds great. I'm loving this. And all of a sudden I'm looking at the video going, holy shit.
It's a weird video, man.
It's all AI, right? But it's cool.
AI.
And there are some people that I know are they're saying, all right, I saw some comments going, hey, it's all AI, but I think it's great because it's basically the Stones kind of more in their prime.
Sure.
And AI'd and it's cool.
Yeah, you got Mick in his late 30s or early 40s in the video. I mean, who wants to see an 82-year-old Mick Jagger? You want to see that Mick as you remembered him, I think. And then a huge entourage of people in a big hall. Like, looks like there's about 20 drummers in there, and it's a little bit of controlled chaos, but I think it's really great if you're a Stones fan like Scott and I are. So worth checking.
Yeah, I'm not exactly sure why there are so many, not just drummers, but there's also a number of guitarists in the background too. There must be a theme
Well,
behind that.
I think because we just saw this video today. I think between the two of us, can do a little bit of digging to say that then there's certainly a story behind that and a rhyme and reason to it. And
Yeah.
maybe it's all the session men that they've played with, or people that they've admired, or who knows what, right? Because there is obviously a good amount of people that have played with them on various albums over the years. I'm only speculating at this point, but we'll dig into the story behind that.
Yeah.
I'm sure it's pretty decent.
Yeah. And the track's quite strong, though. It is.
Yeah,
Pretty good.
yeah, no, absolutely. So,
Okay, Tragically Hip. There's a live album coming, and Ivor is wearing a, if you're on YouTube, a Tragically Hip T-shirt, looking good. Can I see the rest of it?
sure, that's a fully
Fully,
completely.
completely, yeah.
Yeah, but this is not fully completely. So, I mean, the thing is with the hip, anytime we go into a long weekend, it's time for the hip. Traditionally, people are going out to do their first camping and doing things around the house, out in the yard, celebrating. They've got time off. What do? They listen. They have a campfire and they listen to the hip. They go to a bar. They listen to the hip. This is prime time for the hip. So what better time to make an announcement? And we are 10 years on from the final concert tour, the Man Machine Poem Tour, that took place between the 22nd of July and the 20th of August, 2016. And that CBC show that happened 10 years ago was one of the most watched television programs ever in Canada. I think
Yeah.
the only thing that outdid it was the 2010 Olympic gold medal game, hockey game in Vancouver. So anyway, the CBC are rerunning it in its entirety on the 22nd. It will also run globally on their YouTube channel, also on CBC Gem, CBC Radio, and then concurrently, there's a new album. So there's a double album, live album coming, basically at the same time, live July 22 to August 20, 2016. Double live album, pulled from every date on that tour, with the exception, I think, of Victoria. Because I think Victoria, they weren't even sure if they were going to get off the ground. There was like, if you saw a national celebration and the other documentary that came out too, they were sitting there going, we're not even sure if this is going to happen, right? They were
Mm.
whether they were maybe not completely on point that night, I'm not sure, but that's what I think happened, because you do have the rest of the tour on this. The A&R guy, who's their original A&R guy, Bruce Dickinson, has come back to do this and done a tremendous job on it. And so they were forward thinking 10 years ago. They recorded it, I believe, in 8K, and they recorded every single show, probably even sound checks. So Bruce had something like 700 different songs to listen to, because the hip, um, unlike a lot of other touring bands, they played something from every album on that tour. Every night they played something different. There was obviously songs that got repeated at every show, but they pulled little sections from different albums each and every night across the country. So you didn't necessarily get the same thing
Right.
wherever you went. Now, Scott, did you go to any of those dates on that final tour?
I did not. I did watch the final performance, of
Right.
course, on television, but I did not see any of the shows. No.
Right. I went to three of them. I went to two
Wow.
Toronto ones, and I was, fortunate enough to go to the final one in Kingston. So, I feel very lucky about that. But anyway, this isn't unexpected, but I think it's just the right thing to do. I'm still friends with the guys in the band and Jake Gold, and I said, Jake, you guys always do what you say you're going to do, and you do it better, right? So, and they're also, the Hip have their own channel on Sirius XM. So if you've got Sirius, the same day they will, when this comes out, this concert reruns. You can check your listings on the Hip channel on Sirius, but they will run the new album in its entirety that day too. So anyway, lots of great things on the Hip, and they also have a new line of merchandise out there. And by the way, the people that do the Hips merchandise do our merchandise too. So you got good quality. We got
Yes.
good people we're working with.
I'm
So
glad you mentioned that. Just one other thing I'll add, because when I first heard, and we were one of the first stations, CFNY, to play when they first had that EP out,
yeah,
to play them. I wasn't a huge fan of their music, and I'd never seen them live. And I don't know, the second album came out or the first album. So anyway, I was never really a fan of some of their music. I think some people were the same
Hmm.
opinion, but then seeing them live just changed everything for me. And there are those bands, right? The bands that just the albums don't really do anything for you. Then you see them live, and Blue Rodeo is an example of that. I was
Hmm.
kind of these guys are. Right. You see them live, and it was like, oh my god, now I'm a fan. I think that's one of the things for me anyway. We're Tragically Hip.
Yeah, I mean, for me, when I left CFNY, and I was there just when that first EP came out, so I remember they came into the radio station. We did an interview with them right on that first EP, and it was like
Yes.
great, great. And then I left and went to Polygram, and I from a distance I saw like how that was developing, right? And we had our Canadian acts at the time, Sue Medley and Boot Sauce and the Young Saints and some bands like that. And none of them, they did okay, but then you saw like the hip just absolutely exploded. The hip were absolutely everywhere. And fast forward to 1998, and Universal Music buys Polygram, and then we are all integrated into one space. The very first thing that the former CEO of Universal Music, Randy Lennox, did when we all of the staff came in from Polygram is every single person who was new to the company got a copy of Phantom Power on their desk the first day that we were there. And it really was a message to say, hey, we're all in the hip business together. And
This is priority,
it was
guys.
it, it
Yeah.
was it was so obvious, right? And how much priority the hip was over everything else. But very quickly I got into the mix with getting to know people, the people in the camp. I mean, I knew a little bit from before, but you kind of get swallowed up in it. But then when you get to know the band and how personable they are, and you talk to them about their taste in music and all of that, then and my later years, working with them on project to project, it was like just working with your friends, right? Like you
Yeah.
just like you get work done, but and you have lots of concerns and things like that. But man, oh man, they were just one of the best bands ever to work with.
That's great to hear. Okay, a couple things before we jump into some milestones, and we're going to start with the 2000s this week. The planetarium, we talked just about this a little bit before we started recording. The planetarium's been dormant, sitting there for some time, but I think they were just trying to find some use for it, and for whatever reason, it didn't work something out, and it's there's a lot of chatter about it because it's been demolished, and just those
Yeah.
photos, the pictures of this iconic,
Yeah.
domed
The
venue that
McLaughlin
was not
Planetarium,
just a
right?
yeah, the McLaughlin Planetarium, which we all went, with high school trips, and we got to go and stare at the sky and see the stars and kind of fall asleep sometimes. But we, musically speaking, there was the Laser Floyd. There was a few other
I saw
types
this.
of rock
I wanted to mention.
oriented shows around the lasers, but the Laser Floyd was a big one. Sorry, go ahead.
I wanted to mention this because I saw it, and there was a gentleman who I used to know quite well who worked for Anthem, and his name was Perry Goldberg, and he was the national promotion director for Anthem Records. And he said he posted this 2 days ago. He said I was part of something that had never been done before, working with Laserium and the Planetarium. Planetarium, we transformed Rush's new album at the time, moving pictures into an immersive laser experience under the dome at the planetarium. The shows sold out and opened the door for other artistic specific showcases globally, like Laser Floyd, Laser Zeppelin, Laser Beatles, and more. So I did not know that
No, either did
a
I.
Rush event, and Perry did a lot of good stuff back in the day. So good on him for doing
Yeah,
it.
the
People
Floyd
remember.
was the Floyd was the biggest. That you had that Laser Zeppelin. Forgot about that. Laserium. I don't know. That was just a brand name that they
Yeah,
used
I
for a
don't
while.
know. Don't know.
Yeah,
Don't know. But
but the thing was, with me and my friends, the sort of the part of the experience was before the show is going and smoking up outside and going in. listening to Floyd and just passing out,
Oh,
just
of course.
staring up at the sky, right? Yeah.
Anything to, enhance your experience back in the conservative Ontario days when you couldn't do anything, you couldn't have a drink, you couldn't do anything at any of these places, right? And
Yeah.
so anyway, that was it is kind of sad to see the architecture, or the building go, but
Yes.
I mean, realistically, I don't know what they could have done with it to, maybe they could have turned it into a condo. I don't know. Maybe it could be a giant handball court. I don't know, but
Pickleball.
pickleball.
Pickleball court for
Yeah,
old people like us.
exactly.
Unfortunately, it's a very Toronto thing though, because Toronto notoriously will, tear something down and build something new rather than try to make something of a iconic, architectural piece
Yeah,
of work.
yeah. Well,
Anyway,
I mean, who are we?
yep,
There's more and more stuff that we've lost more and more clubs to
exactly.
condos, and this is
Yep.
probably what happened. Meanwhile, on the other hand, I saw somebody out there put out a note trying to get people to sign a petition to try and stop this high speed train to come to, between Montreal and Toronto. And categorically, I will never sign a petition to that because I keep thinking that this country just keeps getting China and Europe eat our dust with their 300 kilometer a mile trains, but everybody's worried about that it's cows won't be able to cross over the crossing, and it's not going to stop in Brockville. I'm sure there will be other trains that will stop in those areas, but anyway, we're not a train podcast. We have
Oh, but we but we sometimes talk sports. Very
Yes,
quickly,
we
I'll give
do.
you just a couple of minutes because I know you wanted to say something about the NFL in Toronto.
Yeah, I mean, I just, here we go again, right? This whole thing with so the NFL just announces all of their international games and who's playing who in these games. And uh I hate to say it, Toronto, but the NFL has left you behind and have expanded into Europe and now gone to Australia and gone to South America to do all of these international games. And with people not going to the US, by the way, and you still want a bit of Americana, one of the best things to do it, because I've been to 3 of these international games, is to go and check out an international game, whether that be in London, but they're all, now we've got the first time in Spain, we were in Mexico, they're in Melbourne, first time in Rio de Janeiro. I mean, it's an absolutely spectacular experience. Why is it not coming to Toronto? Well, the last time they did that was with the Buffalo Bills series that they tried to do. Buffalo has a brand new stadium. It's a $2 billion US stadium with a 60,000 seat capacity. Toronto no longer has the infrastructure to support that with the Sky Dome or Rogers Center, which is now only configured for baseball. And I'm sorry, but BMO Field, $160 million Canadian to build that with a capacity only for World Cup of 45,000 is well below that. And they're not going to put in, and it has to be 60,000 seats for an NFL game now. And they don't have the infrastructure on the field. They don't have the TV infrastructure. None of that is here in this country any longer. The only place that might come close to do it is Edmonton, because that's the biggest stadium in the country, but I seriously doubt that they would do that. So sorry, people in Toronto, but the NFL ain't coming here until we possibly would get our own team. But people would be screaming bloody murder about the cost of a new stadium and everything else that's involved. Scott, any comment?
Okay. No, well done. Bravo.
There you go.
I'm not
My
gonna
sports commentary.
Yeah, let's just check up the road. We got the Paris Fairgrounds. I don't know how big that is. I'll check that out.
You can't put up, but you see, Toronto all thinks, oh, we'll put up a temporary stadium. They're all playing in permanent structures. I will say, in London, Tottenham Hotspur specifically built their new stadium for their new team over there to a double standard, also configured for NFL. So they purposely configured for NFL so they can now have the games at Wembley and at Tottenham Hotspur. I've seen games at both. They're both spectacular. I don't think the experience at BMO Field would be good at all. There you go.
Well said. Very good. Ivor Hamilton. All right, let's do some milestones. All right, the 2000s. Okay, let's start in 2011. 15 years ago, the album Torches. This is the debut album from Foster the People, bit of a sleeper album, but a certain song from that album just sent that album into
Pumped Up Kicks, right? That's the song.
Pumped Up Kicks. Yes.
I'd say,
Yes.
definitive indie pop album for the 2010s. If you think about that song, I mean, it's got to have a place in time, right? Of one of the great songs of that era.
The one thing I wanted to just add here, I don't know if I'm going to play a little tiny, super quick clip of it.
Oh, we're going to get kicked off a Spotify.
No, we're not. I promise.
Yes, we will.
I just have to play a little bit of this. So very quickly, so the radio station I'm working, one of the stations I'm working for in Kitchener, 91.5 The Beat. Of course, Kitchener has the big KW Oktoberfest.
Yes.
And each year, Oktoberfest organizers say the media, you come up with a song, they did a contest to who could come up with the funniest or most interesting song that promotes KW Oktoberfest. So my morning show, I just wanted to shout out to Carlos Benavides, who also worked at CFNY. I don't know if you ever met Carlos.
He worked at Much Music. I knew him from Much Music.
Ah, okay. I don't remember him working at Much Music. But anyway, Carlos Benavides, Sophie Morez, who works still in radio up in Ottawa, David Yutzi, who now sells insurance. Hi, Dave. They're all part of the morning show. Oh, and Johnny Q, our producer. Anyway, they put this together. So you take the song Pumped Up Kicks, and we changed it for Oktoberfest for this title. You ready for it?
I am.
Pumped Up Kegs.
You guys are crazy. You crazy radio guys. Oh my God.
Okay, unfortunately, you're going to listen just for a second of this. Hold on.
Hit Music Radio, 91.5 The Beat. Ziggy zaggy, ziggy zaggy, oi, oi, oi. Ziggy zaggy, ziggy zaggy, oi, oi, oi.
Sophie's got her dirndl on. Dave is digging into a brat on a bun. Carlos in the schnitzel line, with his lederhosen on and his beer in a stein. All the crowd is having fun.
Anyway, I'll fade it out because the AI bots are going to figure out, wait a minute, that sounds like Foster the People. We need to find Ivor and Scott.
Well, and they should find us because it's so terrible, right?
Come on, we won. That song won the contest, by the way. It was a lot of fun.
Won the contest for what? For what? For the
Oh, it's for the
festival. Yeah. Oh, that's fine.
Yeah, promoting Oktoberfest. Yeah. It's all good.
But it didn't win didn't win the silver medal in New York or whatever for best radio creative or whatever. I take it.
No.
So, okay.
Yes.
Right.
So we're looking at, by the way, the week of May 18th to 24th. This is episode 29 of Music Milestones. And also the same week that the Foster the People Torches album came out. Born This Way, the second album from Lady Gaga, was released. And I think you had a Lady Gaga story, didn't you?
Well, I mean, I worked with her from the beginning, and this was another one of those things. And the former head of marketing at Interscope at Universal was Jeremy Summers, and he believed in Lady Gaga right from the beginning. And it was one of those things where eventually, eventually you do have you gather all the team together, and it didn't matter what you were doing. And he just made a speech saying, everybody in this team is in the Lady Gaga business. And Canada, quite honestly, was ahead of the curve on Lady Gaga, right? Like we were out, we had her in minivans going out to clubs and radio stations and doing all sorts of stuff in the early days. And, this Born This Way comes out and it sends her into the stratosphere, obviously, with the cross-cultural LGBT communities and what have you, but became one of the biggest songs ever. And I remember her coming back after she had broken into the stratosphere, and she still remembered everybody and still said hi to everybody and never forgot everybody, So to me, she was an artist that will always be, that I'll always be proud of to be associated with, just because she was very humble and didn't have a big ego and was always accessible even when she was huge. And that, to me, gets a lot of respect for
100%. And you know what? You haven't told me that story before, and I just love hearing it, because here's my story. And you're right, Canada was first, and in Kitchener, we were one of the first to jump on the song "Just Dance" from her first album, "The Fame," 2008. And she sent, and she was fantastic. You're right. She came out in a van and she was awesome. And then I'm just putting this up for those on
Right.
YouTube because this is a
Okay.
personal note. And to me, and look at you, you can tell it's actually her. She even spelled my name right, Scott with one T.
Yeah.
And I'll just read it to everybody very quickly. It says, Scott, I love the beat so much. That was the station 91.5 The Beat. Thank you over and over again for your incredible love and support for me and my project. I never could have done this without you. Canada was my first number one. Anything you need, I'm here for you. Thank you so much. Signed, Lady Gaga. Anyway, an amazing person, and
Yeah.
she deserves everything, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Always, and just and just ethically correct on so many things, fought for so many causes. I mean, her
Yeah.
activism is unbelievable. So always have a lot of respect for her,
Yeah.
no matter what she does. And there's
Agreed.
now there's a Born This Way Foundation that's existed since 2012 too, and is still going to this day. So
Yeah.
yeah, one of the greats. I mean, she also
What a
spent
performer too.
as I've seen, a number of her performances were always top notch. She came, we had
Yeah.
a marketing conference in Berlin, and that she came all the way over to Berlin to be with all the people from around the world. I mean, she got it right, and that was the most important thing when you have the artists that get it and they remember
Yeah.
everybody, and you know,
Works hard.
when we were at radio, you'll always remember those people. So you bringing that out's a great example of that. And I remember us at CFNY, and one of the bands that visited at CFNY that we never really played, but they were such good people, and they were was Journey. So Journey came to CFNY in the very early days, and
Really?
they came
Wow.
in and they did an interview, and they were such nice people. And like 2 days later, this giant package of Journey merchandise shows up at the radio station with like T-shirts and albums for everybody, and
Wow.
signed notes from Steve Perry saying, "Thank you so much for having us in, and thank you for your support." Things, and CFNY really wasn't a Journey station ever, but you
No.
remember those things when people take that extra time to come and do those things. And so you're showing me that note today is a great example of that.
Yeah. Fantastic. Okay. Still in the 2000s, 25 years ago, May 22nd, 2001, a book comes out called The Dirt about, I never read the book. Is it about Motley Crue?
Yeah,
or
it
what,
is.
What,
It
what
is.
what is the book about? What does it tell the story of?
It is the Motley Crue story, right?
Oh, okay. All
It
right.
totally is the Motley Crue story. But I mean,
And you've read it.
I have read it, and I saw the the biopic too that came out around that. And I mean, it's listen, there's two books that made me uncomfortable because of debauchery that went on in the book. One was Keith Richards' book, and the other one was the Motley Crue book.
Hmm.
And like you can put up with certain things in life, and you kind of go, well, that's the way it is, and the way they party, and whatever. But then it's sort of, if it affects other people, and there's you know things that go that children are affected. Not that there was anything that they weren't, nobody's screwing children or anything like that, but the well-being of children or the well-being of others. So the drugs and chaos in Motley Crue is just like, okay, it's just the ultimate rock and roll debauchery of things that went on, and some gigantic egos and things. And yes, they were great musicians and things like that, but they were also, there's incredible fuck ups along the way or whatever, right? So,
Right.
I guess they're to be commended for being so honest in that book or whatever. But in certain places, I found it a difficult read because it made me feel a little uneasy in certain things, and I don't get uneasy about a lot of things, but that book made me feel that way. And as I said too, the Keith Richards book too, when they were recording in France in 71, 72, whatever, that Sticky Fingers album, and like and they were just doing drugs around the clock at that point. And, Keith had one of his young sons there, and the son was like, he was just running around doing whatever he wanted. And I was like, that's not
Yep.
proper, like, it's like, Jesus, have some, but he was so out of it at the time, right? That
Yeah.
just kind of put me off,
Well, you know what? You hear these stories, you read about them, and it's, sex, drugs, and rock and roll, and some of them are funny. But when you think about it from other perspectives, when there's, family involved, and obviously they don't always show the damage that's done with people around you, that drugs and alcohol and abuses like that, and being rock stars, they got away with way too much sometimes, right?
Oh,
Maybe it's funny and everything, and that's cool, but sometimes it's not.
And there was a lot of drug culture going on that I saw in the back in the 1980s, and I will say it happened. It was there at CFNY in certain instances, in certain times, and stuff that was, and some of the friends that I had in my life at the time that were, drugs, and I saw a lot of drugs around me and things, and I saw some of my friends went to jail, and I was like, I don't want to be a part of any of this.
Yeah.
The hell with it, So.
Yeah. Yep. No, good points, Ivor, and totally makes sense. So, May 22nd, 2001. So I love this. This is a concert at Molson Amphitheater, which gets a new name. What's the first show, by the way, at RBC?
This week it's Imagine Dragons.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So we already had a first show, right? Yes.
No, it's coming out this week on the 21st.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
Yeah.
So 2001, there's a Black Crowes playing Molson Amphitheater, and Oasis opening for Black Crowes. That's funny. And you were there.
Yes, I was there. And opening for Oasis was Big Sugar.
Oh, really? I didn't.
Yeah,
okay, good.
So it was Big Sugar, Oasis, and Black Crowes.
That's a pretty good show.
It certainly was. And the weather that we've been having this past week, not today, this like rainy, cold, bullshit
miserable
that we've had.
Yeah, shitty weather.
That was the kind of weather for that show on that particular night at the whatever
Molson Amphitheater at the time. Yeah,
theater at the time they were having, right? So anyway, Big Sugar did their thing, and that was great. And then Oasis doing their thing, and Black Crowes. But I'm fortunate, and I had a backstage pass for that show, and because I was working with Big Sugar at the time. And if you remember the Tea Party, for a while there, they were almost the CFNY house band. Every time there was a Canada Day show, the Tea Party were there. And so I would see the Tea Party, and I'd see them hanging around at various events around the Toronto. And one of the guys in the band had this beautiful girlfriend, absolutely stunning, but she looked a lot like Liv Tyler. And I remember that night going, what is that Liv Tyler chick doing here backstage at the Black Crowes thing? And so there I am standing on stage, and she's standing beside me. I'm like, and then there's some blonde woman standing beside Liv, and they're just, yucking it up, having their drinks and having a good time. And who the fuck are these? I said, wait a minute, that is Liv Tyler. And that was Kate Hudson standing beside Liv Tyler on stage. And I was like, oh, what do I know? What an idiot I am, or whatever. But I mean, I was thrilled to be able to stand on stage with Oasis at the same time they were played for that show. And I still have the damn t-shirt, which I sent you a picture of. Maybe we can post.
Oh, yes, I will do that. I'll do that for sure. Fantastic. Yeah. Okay, let's go to the 90s. Milestones the week of May 18th and 24th is what we're looking at. So let's look at 1996 right now. So 30 years ago, Down on the Upside Soundgarden album is released.
Yeah, I mean, that's one of those records, Scott, that, you and I both look at the title of that, go, I have to go back to that and listen to it. And then I went back and listened to it, go, all right, every song on that record got played about 40 times a week on CFNY at the time. So it was one of their biggest records. And you can't talk about the 90s on CFNY without talking about Soundgarden. I mean, I think, along with them and Pearl Jam and Nirvana, they were part of the big three.
Oh, for sure. Same week, Fuzzy Logic Fuzzy Logic, the album from Super Furry Animals, their debut. It's on many best of lists. And we talked prior to the show about this. I'm like, yeah, I know the band, but I can't remember the album. And it was the 90s, so I wasn't listening to a lot of alternative at the time. Anyway, went back and listened to the album. And, I'm kind of mixed. Some of it, like, yeah, okay, but some of it kind of got lost on me, too.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny with them. I don't know that record, this debut record, very well, but I know some of their later records quite well. And I liked a lot of Welsh bands at the time, and they were pretty cool. I mean, I think they were, a little bit hippie infused, a little space rock. I mean, I've seen references to Hawkwind in certain places and other, with a bit of techno mixed in or whatever. But anyway, it's one to pull out and rediscover.
Yeah, and not for everybody, but I think there's people that are into Super Furry Animals. Yes, it's a good record for some. Okay, also same week, a lot of albums 30 years ago, Bringing Down the Horse from Wallflowers, and that had the big hit on it, One Headlight.
Yes, and of course, at that point, when we just talked about the grunge bands, and by the time we get to that time in the 90s, that people were kind of like, oh, maybe it's time for something a little different than just all of the post-grunge stuff, and the Wallflowers kind of broke through with that, with a little bit more on the folky side, a little more on the acoustic side, kind of going back to what, maybe REM was doing a few years before that. And very big record. It was like 4 times platinum and won 2 Grammys. So it was, a return to roots music that I think was needed at that time.
They play the Danforth Music Hall on August 21st, by the way, if you're a Wallflowers fan. So this one's interesting. So 21st of May, 30 years ago, 1996, the Spirit of the Edge compilation, Volume 2.
Yes.
And I know a certain person that was involved in putting that together, Ivor Hamilton.
Yes. Yeah, I did 2 of them. Yeah, so, fire away, Scott. What do you want to know?
No, because I couldn't remember this one, so I had to look it up. And here, let me just list off the tracks very quickly.
Yeah.
Charlatans UK on there, the only one I know. Well, I'll just mention some of the songs.
Yeah,
like James Lade is on there, fantastic. Love and Rockets, Yin and Yang, and the Flower Pot Man, Ivor, awesome. Step On, Happy Mondays. You got the Pixies on there. Mm-hmm. Joy Division, Love Will Tear Us Apart. You put Bauhaus on there, Bela Lugosi's Dead. This is fantastic. But there was a couple on here. I'm like, okay. So why is How Soon Is Now, but it's not the Smiths?
Well, we were Polygram, and the Smiths were on Sire Records through Warner's, and the labels themselves for compilations were, they're certainly protective on certain things, and by that time,
sure.
How Soon Is Now was pretty legendary. But at the time with CFNY, once they got into, the mid 90s and whatever, it's a new era for them. They want to move on. They're supporting, they're trying to leave a lot of the 80s behind and wanting to support new acts. So we had, here's a bunch of new things that we could bring to the table on that one. And this band Quicksand, which is, kind of a grungy, B-level grungy act, but they had done this sort of, punkified version of How Soon Is Now. So it's like, okay, let's include that. And then,
which makes a sense because you've got Spirit of Radio by Catherine Wheel version right here. So that makes sense too.
Yeah. And I think, at the time it was a good idea, and, history has showed that it wasn't a good idea now, but at the time, I certainly have heard it in my ear firsthand from members of Rush how much they hated it, and that they were asked to do an interview on the anniversary of CFNY at that time, and the station said, "Yeah, we're going to play Catherine Wheel. Can you talk to us about the song?" And they're like, "Absolutely not."
But I think they must have understood, though. Again, this is an alternative radio station, so here's Catherine Wheel are in the alternative wheelhouse. So
yeah,
here's their version of this song. What's wrong with that?
Nothing. But Rush isn't going to talk about it, right? So, and they have every right to, right?
Fair enough.
Now, the other thing about that compilation, which wasn't really prominent at the time, but has been history has shown that And I came into CFNY a number of years later when you had that show there, when you what was it called, Scott, that you came back and did like 10 years ago or whatever.
Oh, the Spirit of Radio Sundays.
Spirit of Radio Sundays, and you had me on the show, and I played this song on the show, and you're going, I've never heard this before, right?
Yeah.
And that's the vocal version of New Order's Let Go. So what the vocal version turned out to be a real rarity because it was out there for a little bit and then it just completely went away. It's only recently being made available again, and it was on a soundtrack originally, but not on any of their records. So it's been really hard to find for a long, long time. I think it's one of their greatest underrated tracks, and so that kind of makes the compilation a little more, rarefied. Now this compilation is not available anymore. Neither of those Spirit of the Edge compilations are available anymore. So,
good collector's item.
Good collector's items, and I will put it on record that it is not a marrying of the Spirit of Radio and the Edge. The title of the album came from the Hawkwind song "Spirit of the Age," and we just changed it up a little bit. Now, in 2026, it would make sense that you go Spirit of the Edge. To connect the two eras together, which is not a bad idea. And Robbie J put that in front of me this past week, and I said, "Well, just so you know, we did these compilations, but it came from a Hawkwind song."
Okay, interesting. And by the way, that the song from New Order, "Let's Go," was on the soundtrack to a film called Salvation, which was out in '87. So,
correct.
I've never heard of that film either. But Ira, good job on the compilation, though.
Thank you.
I give it 9 out of 10.
Thank you.
Okay. And a great collector's item. Okay, just to finish up the 90s, May 20th, 1991, Seal, the debut album from Seal, is released 3 times platinum in Canada. Obviously, Canada loves Seal. And this had, I just made on my notes here, it had the version of Killer on it. I still prefer the original Adamski version of Killer, but it was a big album. Seal was a big album. A lot of people love Seal.
I think it was absolutely huge at the time. It's, again, another one like the Foster the People, even bigger than that you just kind of remember, oh, what do I remember from that era? I remember Seal. Kiss from a Rose, I think, was a fabulous song as well.
Okay, let's do some birthdays really quick. Let's see. There's our little birthday theme. Okay, there's a number of I have a bug flying around in my office here. That's you got any fruit flies in your place sometimes, Ivor? They just
I
do.
They
drive me nuts. Okay, here's some birthdays people turning milestones this week. We got Bob Dylan turning 85 on May 24th. We've got Ronald Isley of the Isley Brothers turning 85 on May 21st. Cher turning 80 on the 20th. We've got Steve Upton of Wishbone Ash turning 80 on the 24th of May. 19th of May, Martin Ware turned 70. Martin Ware was in Human League and Heaven 17. And on May 20th, Nick Hayward turning 65. Nick Hayward. And he's
coming to town. New record.
Right. What's the date on that?
It is the 31st of August. That is the show with Squeezed and Adamant coming to Toronto at that point. And so
and it's Haircut 100, and he'll probably do his solo stuff too, I would assume.
Well, I mean, it's original lineup of Haircut 100. Maybe there'll be a song, maybe Whistle Down the Wind or something. But as I said to you on the show last week, that these new Haircut 100 tracks that are out there, there's 2 right now, and this album coming out in June. The 2 tracks I've heard so far are really, really good. So do check it out.
Oh, look forward to that. Okay. Any other notes on any of the milestone birthdays?
Well, Ronald Isley, just saying that the late Brad McNally told me there was always an announcer that worked for him that would call them the Isley brothers, but that's all I have on that one, right? So,
okay, a couple of people we've lost just recently. Jack Douglas, a producer that worked with Aerosmith and Cheap Trick. At age 80, lived a good life.
Yeah, he also did first New York Dolls album and the Who's Next by the Who. So some amazing titles. Patti Smith he worked with as well. So yeah, sorry to see him go.
Another one I just saw, Clarence Carter, who had the hit "Strokin'." He just passed away. He was 90.
Wow,
that's a good life.
Was that the same guy?
Could ever make it to 90, Ivor?
Patches. nobody in my family's made it to 90, Scott. So I'm
Oh,
not too concerned about that.
you
So
got to break it. You got to break
I
that,
don't,
Ivor.
I don't want to.
Oh.
Like,
That's the other part of it, right?
it's like in
Yeah.
that Bob and Doug movie where they're going down the hill and the brakes fail and he just turns to his brother and goes, "No point in steering now," right? So
I love that. Okay, let's do the 80s. All
uh,
right. Yeah. All right, so we got a number to cover here. First of all, let's go to the mid 80s. 40 years ago, May 19th, Big Mouth Strikes Again from the Smiths.
Big Mouth,
Da da da, Big Mouth. Speaking about, just stay tuned because I've got a great clip coming up where I forget who it is. Noel Gallagher of Oasis is asked, "Who's a better drinker, Morrissey, Bono, or Bobby Gillespie?" Gillespie. So we have that clip to play for you coming up, and it's quite interesting, quite funny. Okay, the So album turns 40. Peter Gabriel's So album, massive record. It also was the number one album of the year on CFNY's end of year list, the best of 86.
I mean, the first Peter Gabriel record that wasn't self-titled after so many years because the labels
Oh, right, yeah.
losing their mind. Like, can you please title one of these records? So that's what he did.
Driving us
what did
nuts. Yeah.
they did. I couldn't get the complete accurate information, but probably 500,000 sold in Canada on this one. It's certainly his biggest record. Sledgehammer in Your Eyes, big time, produced by Daniel Lanois.
Yep.
And for me, that was, and it was also the first, it finally put him in the black. It was the first time that he finally went out because he, especially when he hooked up and started doing all the WOMAD stuff, he went hugely into debt. And you might recall, or maybe you didn't, but a few years before that, they did a Genesis reunion show at Milton Keynes and brought out all the costumes and stuff from the Gabriel years. And they did it because Gabriel was in such dire straits. But this record finally put him back into the black. And it's the only time in his career that Peter Gabriel record knocked Genesis out of the number one spot in America on the when Sledgehammer was being so big. Now, for me, that is the first time when I finally went, and this was even at CFNY. I'm like, okay, we're playing too much Peter Gabriel now, right? Like, this record was the first one of the first ones, and I heard the same thing on Letterman one night. He goes, "Is there enough Phil Collins on the radio, everybody?" And you couldn't turn your head anywhere. And I think also for me, it probably wasn't because anywhere you'd turn your head or anything you would do, you would hear Peter Gabriel in 1986. It was such a big part of that whole.
Yeah, and Sledgehammer got so much play, right? Played it to death. I love the song, but played it to death. Yeah.
You've got radio, you've got films, and then you've got Much Music's on the air at that point. If you're in the States, it's MTV, and it was the most played video ever on MTV too. So, it was overdone, but we still love it.
Same day, the album Walkabout from The Fix, 40 years ago, released. I'm trying to remember which singles was on Walkabout. Do you remember?
It had Secret Separation on there.
Okay.
And Secret Separation, I think was one of their best songs that they ever.
Good song.
Really love that song. Yeah.
Agreed. Okay. Also, 40 years ago, Venus from Bananarama is released, and that was a big one. Probably at the Video Roadshow too. The extended mix of that one.
It was a really big record. It went to number one in the U.S. Did not go to number one in the U.K. Oddly enough, since that's where the girls were from. And the other interesting thing about it was the original version by Shocking Blue was also a number one hit. So that song went to number one twice, and they modeled the sound of that song off of something that, and when you think about it, is quite obvious. Dead or Alive, You Spin Me Right Round. And you think about the song and you think about Venus going, okay, all right, boy, that sounds similar in ways. And so the girls heard You Spin Me Round and said, we want Stock Aitken Waterman to produce us. And they got them. And lo and behold, another number one.
Yeah.
There
Big
is
sound.
there is right
Big
now
sound for the mid 80s.
a really, really interesting. Not that you shouldn't listen to Ivor and Scott, but I'm gonna send you away to listen to another podcast. The story of London Records. It's only a 2-part podcast. It's up on Spotify right now, and it tells the whole story behind what Bananarama did, of course, along with the other bands on the label that Fine Young Cannibals and Blamage and Shakespeare's Sister and a bunch of other ones on there. But really, really well done.
Yeah. Okay. May 20th, 1986, Susie and the Banshees at Massey Hall. Ivor, you were at the show?
I was, and I will say that I like Susie and the Banshees better on record than I did live. I can honestly say that I only ever might have seen them once that I was like, wow, that was great. The rest of the times I was like, yeah, they're okay. It didn't capture me as much as many other bands from the era. Love their records. I would never say anything bad about the records. Always been a part of my DNA. But live, I was like, yeah, it's okay. Did you ever see
Okay.
Susie yourself?
Let's go to. I never did, funny enough, because I love Susie and the Banshees, and I'm not sure why I never saw them live. It probably was I was doing something else or
Yeah.
working a club or whatever it was.
Yeah.
Just those. Yeah, that's a regret because I was a big Susie fan. But it's interesting that they maybe weren't that great live, or you just got a bad show, whatever, right?
Yeah, I mean, I saw her a couple of times. I mean, she
Okay.
was also on Polygram, so I got to see multiple shows over the years, and I always thought they were good, but it wasn't. I never walked away. Oh God, that was one of the greatest
Right.
shows ever. Right?
Yeah. Okay. Well, let's talk about. We were both at this next show. We're going to go to the early 80s now. So 45 years ago, May 23rd, 1981, the Jam at the Concert Hall. We were both at this show. Ivor, I'll get your thoughts, opinions, and then I'll tell you mine.
Okay, so for those of you that are watching us on YouTube, there was a book that came out this past year.
Just move that into the camera a little bit to the other way so I can
Can
read
you
it.
see it better?
Oh,
This-
I got something blocking my view here.
Okay.
Okay, it's called. I'll just
Solid-
read it for those that aren't on YouTube. It says "Solid Bond in Your Heart: The People's History of the Jam."
Right. So this
Okay.
so this book that came out last year is basically a fan's history of the Jam, and yours truly contributed to this book. Concert
Yes.
Hall, May 22nd, May 23rd, 1981. I was there, Ivor Hamilton. It is story time, boys and girls. I'm going to read you what I contributed because this is a bit of a small this was a small contribution.
Cool.
I
Do it.
actually contributed on every Jam show that came to Toronto in this book. So I was there, Ivor Hamilton. This was the go-to venue in the late 60s. They're talking about the concert hall when Led Zeppelin, The Who, Procol Harum, Frank Zappa, and countless others played there before it fell out of favor. Bands started to appear again in the 80s, mostly booked by the indie promoters, the Garys, with a wooden dance floor and a close proximity balcony view and no air conditioning. It never took long to get the 1,500 capacity place roaring when there was a sold-out show. By 1981, the town's major concert promoters, CPI, had begun to regularly book the venue as well as with emerging acts. To the dismay of radio station CFNY, who didn't have as big an audience, CPI aligned itself regularly with Chum FM, the #1 rock station in the market. That seemed good on paper, but Chum FM only spun Jam records occasionally. Their audience also had very little idea who they were. There's a live recording of the second night there, and towards the end of the set, Paul Weller said he'd been in Toronto for 3 days and was appalled by what he'd heard on local radio, urging the audience to pester radio to play them. And that meant he was listening to Chum FM. Regardless, both shows sold out, and it was filled with CFNY listeners who knew what the band were playing.
Excellent.
That's my little story.
Nice. Excellent. My quick memory is the one that sticks out more than anything else is that was one of the loudest shows I had ever been to. Absolutely. Yes. Blistering. I think I was up pretty close, but just, that was one of my takeaways. By the way, great live band.
Yes.
Just tight, really, really tight, but loud. Whew. I thought they were just blisteringly loud. Anyway, maybe I was just too much on the one side of the guitar side,
Yeah, you never know, right? So
Yeah, I think they had those high watt amps that were just super loud, super clear. Anyway, good show.
excellent
Okay.
show.
Also we've got May 19th, 1981, 45 years ago, U2 play their third Toronto show. This one's at Ryerson. I was not at that show. Ivor, were you at
I
that
was
one?
not at that show
Yep.
either, but months later they graduated to Maple Leaf Gardens. So
Yep. That would have been their
and it was
last
fun.
smaller venue. Okay, here's that clip, by the way. So this is give credit to Vice. So an interviewer from Vice is interviewing Noel Gallagher of Oasis, and he says, to Noel, who can drink more, Bono, Morrissey, or Bobby Gillespie? And by the way, if you don't know, Bobby Gillespie is with Primal Scream. So here's the clip.
Who can drink the most, Morrissey, Bono, or Bobby Gillespie?
Bono,
Bono.
hands down.
Thirsty guy, yeah?
Yeah, hands down. Bobby don't drink. Morrissey's good crack, man. He can drink and doesn't really get drunk though. Remains equally as vicious from the minute you meet him till 7 hours later.
Nothing will temper him.
No, not in the slightest. I lighten up once I've had a drink.
Yeah.
Not Morrissey. No. But Bono is he's really, really brilliant company. I mean, I've been drinking with him, and I've been leaving a bar at 6 a.m, and he's on the bar singing opera, and he's got a fucking gig the following night to like 70,000 people, and I'm being escorted out like James Brown, fucking pissed, and he's got a gig the next night to fucking.
I'm starting to understand the sunglasses a little bit more now.
You got to hand it. There's always one of the people like that they can go all night, and they're like major stars, or they're major executives, and they've got a big show, or they've got a big presentation in front of the company, and they up there making 3 hours after that they're up there like nothing ever happened, and you're like,
and nailing it.
Yeah. And I'm like, I'm not getting out of bed for 2 days,
Yeah, Ivor, you know what it is? It is genes. It is like DNA genes that are passed down. Some people just, can do it. Others, I'm a mess, right?
I was never one who could do any of that. So,
Okay, we're going to finish off the 80s from 1981. A couple of releases, Bang Bang from Iggy Pop, which was on the album Party, which was the fourth best album of the year in the CFOY end of year list.
Good record, something we would have played on a regular basis. I think we've got that on tape somewhere too. And we recorded Iggy at the Danforth Music Halls. Remember that one? It was a great show.
Great track. Also Spellbound. We were talking about Susie and the Banshees. Spellbound, great track, came out May 22nd, 1981.
Yep. One of her all-time. If I want to list like top 10 Susie tracks, that'll definitely be in there.
I agree. Also, May 18th, 1981, Too Drunk to Fuck comes out from the Dead Kennedys.
You would have heard that on the Import Show occasionally. Did not make it into regular rotation at the radio station, but we dabbled with the Dead Kennedys here and there. I got a Holiday in Cambodia T-shirt that I had back at the day, and a buddy of mine was so proud of himself. He went to Cambodia on business, and he's like messaging me from Cambodia. He goes, "I'm listening to the Dead Kennedys. Well, I'm in Cambodia playing Holiday in Cambodia." It's like, good for you. Way to go.
Okay, and I'll just finish the 80s off here with, and I'm going to mention also something from the 70s, which we're going into in a second here, is that we have two anniversaries. So we've got Canada's Wonderland opening 45 years ago, and we also got Ontario Place and the Ontario Place Forum opening 55 years ago this month. So Ivor and I are going to deep dive into that in the next coming weeks about Canada's Wonderland, because there were so many shows, and the Forum on Ontario Place. And without getting into it deeply right now, is that there were one of the reasons that those venues became so iconic is because of some of the deals they made from Ontario Place doing subsidies from the government. And then you had Canada's Wonderland doing, beer sponsorship. So the shows, they were able to do shows at an incredible price. And that's why it's such a great memory. And so many people saw so many great shows at those venues.
Yeah. So we're going to take a deep dive on both of these venues. We'll do it separately, actually. And so, 1 week will be Ontario Place. Another week will be Canada's wonderland, but it is that time of year, as we get into this, this May long weekend that you're going, these things open up and you've got great memories of going to both of these places. So we're going to we're going to share some more memories.
Okay. We're going to finish off our milestones this week with the 70s. Okay, 50 years is a 50th anniversary release of Fly Like an Eagle from the Steve Miller Band. And if there's one thing that this album reminds me of, Ivor, of all things, it's certain, how music is so great for that, because certain songs, certain albums, you just can't stop that memory. And for me, of all things, it's my first car and the car stereo I had in my little Honda Civic that I bought off my parents. I convinced my parents to letting me buy the car, and I put the stereo in a cassette deck, and I just remember playing that album in the cassette deck so many times. Song after song, Steve Miller Band, a good album.
That's, what I mean. Yeah, no, I've got great memories. I mean, my first car was a 1972 Volkswagen Bug I bought from my former boss at the Brampton Golf Club. He was a great guy, and he sold it to me for $800. And I proceeded to go and spend more than the car was worth to put in one of those, Pioneer had just come out with those new cassette decks at the time, and I had to have that in there. And oh man, it was some great memories of the tapes that I played in that little VW. And I didn't know how to drive standard, but that was my first car, was standard. And I remember going on a date down to Toronto on the day that I got the car, and I'd never driven standard before. It was a challenging drive there and back at the time.
And by the way, that's the yellow Bug that's in the documentary,
it's the
right?
Same one, yes.
Yeah. I love that shot with you in front of the station. That's a classic shot. Great.
Thanks.
It's great. And the other last milestone from the 70s we want to mention here is the What's Going On album. 1971, May 21st, 1971, What's Going On album. Marvin Gaye, still today sits at number 1 on Rolling Stone magazine's 500 greatest albums of all time.
Well, not surprising. I mean, and it was the first time that, and Marvin had finally kind of said no to Berry Gordy and everybody else at Motown. It's like he wanted his independence on this, and he had so much talent built up inside of things that he couldn't do outside of what they used to do with Motown. And I agree. I mean, you sit there and listen to it, go, man, it is one of the greatest records ever of that for soul music. And again, if you're in Detroit ever, I highly recommend visiting the Motown Museum just for the Motown experience and just learning the stories of everything that happened then. But there was that whole grassroots movement in Motown once they hit the 70s, and the civil rights movement and everything else that was going on post Martin Luther King, that a lot of the Motown artists, Stevie, Marvin, even Michael Jackson, all kind of wanting out because they didn't want to do things the Berry Gordy way. Mm-hmm. But look at what, Marvin's getting his independence on this one, and, couldn't have been better.
Okay. Just to finish up, here's some concerts this week. Ivor, you want to mention just a couple of shows?
Yes. Our buddy Ed Sousa got a few things going on up at the Classic Bowl. On the 22nd, we got Strange Advance and Teenage Head along with Haywire. On the 23rd, Jesus Jones along with Gene Loves Jezebel, The Box, Sergio Gali of Platinum Blonde fame. So that those should be fun. I mentioned this earlier in the show. The RBC stage opens up on the 21st with Imagine Dragons. Also on the 21st this week, we've got Courtney Barnett at History, which is she's a fantastic artist. And also in Buffalo at the Town Ballroom, we've got USS playing on the 22nd. So those are some things to do this week.
Excellent. Okay. And a reminder, everybody, to check out our kind of companion episode, which is the episode number, because this is number 29. So episode 28 is an interview with Lee Carter. So we do encourage you to check that out. Lots of great CFNY stories and lots about live from London that Lee Carter did on CFNY. So that's a good one. Check it out. Thank you, everybody. Ivor, we'll catch you next week.
Thanks very much, Scott. Don't forget our companion playlist, too. We got 2 of them this week. So